I think they're about 30 seconds behind, 20 seconds behind us as well. So
Okay.
you might experience some delays there. Let's have a look. Hi, everyone. It's Curtis here from the Social Work Race podcast. Hopefully, you can hear me all right. This is our first live on LinkedIn. I was going to say Instagram, and this is going to be an interesting experience. Hope it works for everyone. I'm checking myself on the other screen. So what we'll do is we'll just give it about 30 seconds to make sure that everyone can hear and see. We're just making sure it works. But according to StreamYard, everything works. Let's have a look. Someone letting me in. I'm letting myself in. That's what I'm doing. Let's have a look. It works, they're saying. Okay, lovely. So I'm wondering why I can't see myself, but that's okay. If you all have any questions, right, put it through. It's good to see everyone. Oh, man, technology. Oh, gosh. Okay. So let's go back. Shannon, Michelle, and some of you as names I can't see because you might have a private account, but welcome everyone. Before we go into it, it's getting so hot in here now. Before we go into it, I just want to introduce you to the platform. Some of you may or may not know what we do here. This is a platform for social workers, social work students, and anyone else on the front line. Okay. And this is the interesting thing about it, is that this started about 5-6 years ago. Okay. Because I have a passion for helping people get to where they need to get to. And so it's been really an honor to kind of host this platform to help people just get by. I can just tell you a little bit about myself, then I'm going to introduce you to my friend Sarah, who I've met recently, with this lovely smile she's got there. You wouldn't believe that social workers smile, would you? But yeah, so my journey is really that I've got this real passion to help students, social work students and social workers, anyone who feels that they can contribute to making this journey work. And it actually started because I struggled to find my way in learning how to study, having been out of education for 23 years at the time. Coming in now, starting a degree, didn't know how to do it properly, didn't know what my learning style was, left school with no grades. Here we are, and I'm just trying to help you all do better than what I've done. And I'm sure probably Sarah's thinking the same as well. So today, we have I've invited Sarah on, and I'll just give a very brief intro, then I'll let Sarah introduce herself. But Sarah is someone that met me on, was it LinkedIn? It was
Yeah.
LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn Live last week. So I do these lives every Wednesday, coming from Instagram Live now to LinkedIn Live. Guys, if you can hear me, just let me know if it's still working or not. All right, that would be really helpful. Just send your comments through. So what happens is that I do live sessions, and then there's sometimes people reach out, and I have a lot of people reaching out with questions and wanting to contribute to the platform, because social work is no joke, right? So Sarah and I have had a brief few conversations, because it's not easy coming out here live to the whole world talking about just showing up. Thank you, guys. It's working. Just talking is no joke, and I find it hard myself. But I dive in the deep end because I'm a bit gung ho like that. Sarah, nice to have you on. We're going to talk about a few things, but please just introduce yourself.
Hiya. So I'm Sarah Preston. I've been qualified social worker now for 7 years. I've always worked in child protection, safeguarding. I'm just about to take a jump into working with the looked after team. Yeah, that's
Brilliant.
that's really about me. I think I've got I share Curtis's values in terms of supporting newly qualified students with their journey. And that's why I think this is a really important platform for you guys to be able to join.
Lovely. Thanks for that. And I think you've understated yourself. Do you know what? I guess what we'll do is I'll just throw you in the deep end a little bit. I know you can swim a little bit. So I'll throw you in the deep end a little bit and say, describe child protection social working in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, I think the first word that comes to mind is chaotic. It's
What do you mean?
unpredictable.
What unpredictable care? What does that mean?
So with chaotic, I mean, you planning your work can be quite difficult. There's a number amount of crisis in that. We are working with some of our most complex families, young people. And, that's hard. It's really hard. But yet when you can get in there and you see the change, it's also really rewarding.
Yeah. That's brilliant. I mean, let me say this, right? I think that what we want to leave here today with is this. We want people to know what it's really like. We want students to hit the ground running or at a pace so that they have a bit of a reality check from today. That's why I do this. And we want people to leave with some tools as to how to prepare for or social work better. And so there were 3 topics that you wanted to look at. One of them is about expectations.
Yeah.
Expectations. Hello, everyone in the comments. Yeah. Expectations. Now, I think, in fact, I'm going to let you do it. Why did expectations come up in our conversation?
I think for me, when you come in as a brand new social worker, it's the expectations we have on ourselves. We come out of university with our degree. We've learnt some theories and stuff. But in fact, even when you start placement and you enter in a local authority, I always describe it as it's like walking into a conversation halfway through. You don't understand really the language. We use all these fancy words or acronyms.
Yeah.
And I think the expectation on ourselves is that we go in knowing what we are doing.
Yeah.
And you're still very early in your learning journey, which is why we have ASYE programs. Some local authorities have academies so that you are supported within that journey to continue on your development. And, you are always learning and developing in this role. And I think sometimes when we come in, we have the expectation of ourselves that we should know it all.
It's interesting. A thought came to mind today because I heard someone say something, I think it was yesterday, and they were saying like the first day that they joined in their placement team, obviously, let's be aware that when you go into placement or when you become newly qualified and you start your first job, your manager is already under pressure. And so what's going to happen is they're going to sometimes just see you and just say, right, newly qualified or not, go and do an assessment. And you're like, I haven't even learned how to do it. Even I was on placement, and that's what that's like the shock factor. Am I good enough to do this?
Yeah.
Someone saying, Kieran saying, expect the unexpected. I'm not trying to scare anyone off, right? What do you think about that? Expect the unexpected.
I think that's very true. Funny enough, yesterday, my son's learning to drive, and we were talking about issues that could happen in the road, and I was like, this could happen. It's almost like expect the worst thing. because you don't know how other people are going to respond, react. You know, that's working with families, as you just said, even with working with managers. You know, they're under such pressure that sometimes the support they would like to give is not always available.
Yeah, and we'll come to that as well. We'll come to that in more detail because we're going to look at supervision as well.
Yeah.
Do you remember when your first day, first week?
Yeah, I do. And I remember, you know, see, I came into social work later in life, having had my children, my family and stuff. But, you know, going up to my manager, is this okay? Is this okay? And sort of almost wanting to be micromanaged. I was scared of making a mistake.
Yeah. That is real. And I say, you're on your first day, you're like, I think even the first assessment.
Yeah.
Like, am I writing this okay?
Yeah.
Are you overthinking? Yes, you are. You're probably overthinking. Like, you can write, you'll be fine. You're going to make mistakes. It's got to happen. Do you know what I mean?
And I was going out. I remember my first visit I went out with, and I had, you know, another worker with me, and I had all the list of questions, you know, that I wanted to, that I needed to ask, and sort of acting like it was a checklist, which, you know, it's good to plan for visits, but I felt that I went a bit, you know, rather than making it conversational that visit, that I was like, right, and have you done this? And have you done that? And what's this? And yeah.
So what would you say was going on there?
About just making sure that I got it right and not wanting to miss anything out.
Yeah. So I guess it's sad in a way because I guess some families are going to be put in the hands of people who are probably afraid, apprehensive, unsure of themselves. That's one of the realities, I think.
Yeah.
And that's a sad reality, but there's the only one way it could go. I mean, it would be nice if we could shadow. We don't always get to shadow, even on placement. We don't. Some, depending on your placement, they might just say, look, we're short-staffed, go and do it. You know what I mean? So it'd be nice if we could be really prepared. But I think the reality is you may not be.
But I mean, talking about shadowing, I think that's so important for, you know, even sort of fully qualified, experienced social workers to still shadow other workers, because it goes back to always learning, seeing how other people do things, and especially for students and newly qualified, just being able to get a range of how different people practice, because we've all got our very own different styles and ways of doing things.
I like that because I remember when I was training, someone said to me when I was in my placement, you write your own style. And I'm like, I don't think my style's good enough. Do you know what I mean? I had that imposter saying, yeah, right, let me write like somebody else who I trust. Do you know what I mean? And we've got someone here in the comments saying 6 years deep and I'm still worried about missing something. Of course.
Yeah.
Did you know what?
We do.
Did you know what? Actually, even now, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll be woken up. Oh my gosh, I forgot to. Do you know what I mean? Last week, I sent off 2 assessments. And sometimes when you're working on 2 assessments at the same time, I sent it off without putting information in that I needed to be in the assessment. So I asked my manager, could you send it back, please? Because once it's gone, I can't get it back. And she sent it back. And then I remember when I've amended it, I remembered, oh, I didn't put this piece of information in there. That's woken me up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. And I know that, you know, when I've gone out and done sort of full parenting assessments with families, you know, I will offer to them and say, you know, if there's something that you feel like that you want to contribute afterwards, then give us a call. You know, it's rolling. But in the same token, I will say, you know, I will own it. Kieran, I'm the same with you, where I think, you know, I may want to add something because I'm writing and reflecting. So I'm quite honest and say, you know, I might give you a call if there's something I've forgotten. It's not, you know, it's just about owning it, because we're not perfect.
No. Do you know what? I've got an interesting question for you. It came to my mind, right? If you could go back to your student or newly qualified self, I think that's probably two different questions. To your newly qualified self, what would you say to yourself?
Um,
Take your time.
oh,
Take your time. You can come back to it if you want.
I think I might. I think I know what I would say to myself, which is, you know, it comes onto those boundaries. It's
Interesting.
Feeling like I needed to get everything done, or saying, you know, become so keen to do things because they're interesting, especially as a newly qualified. You're like, oh yeah, I want to see that one, experience this, etc. And then sometimes you can be then known as a bit of a yes person.
Wow.
So I think those boundaries, especially, you know, as one of the areas I know we discussed about was burnout and stuff, and
yeah,
so it can be a slippery slope.
We're going to come on to that. Interesting. I just want to ask the audience, what would you say to your student self if you could go back and tell yourself, oh, look, this is where I am now. You know, I like that so much. Sarah, is it Sarah or Sarah?
It is Sarah.
Sarah, yeah. So looking at the reality of it, it is, like you said, it is challenging. It is, and you use these words, chaotic, and that can really scare people off or make people really apprehensive. What would you say to someone then who hears the word chaotic and child protection? Should I go down that road? Do you think that the word chaos should be scaring people off?
I think that depends on the individual, because some people like that sort of that unpredictability. Some people find it interesting. No 2 days are the same.
Yeah.
You know, but then also as well, that's where possibly your boundaries come in as well. You know, with when you make yourself available, or you know, being able to prioritize certain meetings, or you know, whatever it is that you've got on. So you know, it's yes, it's chaos, but if you expect the unpredictable, you know, and you have a team around you and you have a manager, so you shouldn't be on your own with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So look, you're touching on so many things because I think it's all interconnected, isn't it? And this is the thing. Like, if I think we'll move on to the topic now of burnout, guys. We're just having a conversation. If you've just joined, we're talking about Sarah's perspectives on the social work journey, and we're really trying to encourage social work students and the newly qualified social workers about, you know, we don't want you to come into social work and be inundated and not know where to turn. This platform is here for you to learn and grow. I've learned that I've come up in the old ways. I've been on the front line for about 20 years and I qualified a few years back. And, you know, I've had a lot of challenging experiences, which has been good for me. But I don't think that anybody should run away from that. That's where the best growth is, you know what I mean? And so we're here having a conversation, and this will be every Wednesday at 8 p.m. for you to just say, look, at least I know that there's a space that I can learn and grow and not run away. And oh, I'm not the only one going through this. Did you ever feel that, Sarah, that you were the only one going through certain things?
Yeah. And that's, you know, when I use the word chaos, it's okay for people to think that or feel apprehensive about that. But, you know, because we've all been there.
Yeah, absolutely. To that question, when I said, what would you say to your student self? I've got some answers here. Someone says, trust your gut. That's an interesting one, especially in child protection. Let's touch on that a little bit. I like that. What do you think that they're talking about? Or what does it mean to you to trust your gut?
For me, in child protection, you know, it's about working with families, and when you know something is not quite right, but how do you evidence that? And what is it? Because sometimes you don't know. You just think there's something not right here. And that's where like your reflective supervision and also, you know, your gut instinct, that comes from somewhere, whether that's your professional experience, your personal life, or something that comes from somewhere. And that's, I think that's what you have to ask yourself.
I love that. Don't worry, we're at home. I know there's people in the background and all that. That happens. I wouldn't be
It's
surprised.
only because my son needs to come in.
That's all right. Do what you're doing. It's not a problem. We're not. This is not a TV show. Don't worry. Guys, look, this is real life. We are social workers, and this is the end of the day. Look at what we're doing. So, you know, hats off to Sarah, which is that means she's putting in the real effort. Okay,
Thank
interesting.
you, sorry.
We're going to come to yours comment. This is it. It's all right, Sarah. No problem at all. And if anyone's in the background, don't worry. Trust your gut. I like that, and I think you know what it is you have to use your team to reflect, because there are times when you will see or hear something and you've got to say to yourself, look, at the end of the day, whatever happens, I've got to put on paper what my gut is saying. And that's really hard sometimes. So you have to have rigorous conversations with your teammates, you know?
But I think it's important, you know, when we do write that, we write our visits, you know, we do our analysis, that's recorded. Because you could do a visit one time and feel something, and then someone else at next visit, I don't know if it's covered by a duty or it's past teams, may get another bit of the jigsaw.
I agree. And sometimes I put my suspicions in an analysis. I will say that I haven't got any evidence, because sometimes I want the family to be on notice. There is definitely something going on here, and I only do that when it's really concerning and I can't not say anything. But obviously the thresholds are not met to take it further. But I don't do that in all cases. But this is it. This is some of the complexities. I've got some other answers here. Let's have a look. I'm at the start of my student journey, so I appreciate any thoughts. Yeah. So guys, you see what I'm saying? If you put your thoughts in the comments, it will help the students work this out. You're actually greasing, I won't say that actually. You're actually making greasing the parts for them. That's what I would say. Trust your gut. I would agree. Boundaries are so important. Yeah. Do you know what? And you have to be very careful about disguised compliance and not drawing clear lines. I mean, there's a way to, and it's something we have to learn. We have to learn how to build relationships with people whilst keeping those lines drawn and clear, you know. And there are some families, they will try to blur that line to beguile you, and that is one of the honest realities of the job. You've got to be very careful about that personal professional line.
And I think, you know, I know a lot of local authorities now are using more like motivational interviewing, and you know that's where your professional curiosity comes in. And for anyone who's done motivational interviewing, there's a technique we learned called the Columbo technique. And it's about asking those questions. You just sort of, you know, help me to understand, actually, you know, there's this and there's this, what's going on? And then you put that to the family in such a way, you know, it's not confrontational, but you just sort of like, actually help me to understand this, because it's not making sense to me.
100%. Can't escape that. Love that. Another one, we're going to come on to burnout in a minute, because some of these all lead on to burnout, and I want to get your perspectives on it. Another comment says, know your limits. Don't be afraid to ask anything. That's two things there. So know your limits, I guess. Yeah. Sometimes your body will let you know. With me, my body lets me know at the last minute, which is not good. I can go for quite a long time and then it kicks in, which is really not good. But I'm learning to respond to myself a lot easier. No, we'll come to you on this in a minute, Sarah, because this is something you're going to deal with. It's okay to not get it right. It's okay to ask. Yeah, I ask questions. I'm doing this show. I can answer a lot of questions. But when I'm doing these assessments, for some reason, because I'm in the box, I can't see. And I said to my manager this week, I think it was Monday, I said, I can't believe I'm asking you this question again. But there's certain situations where, like, there's certain cases I get where I'm thinking, I cannot draw a conclusion on this case because it's on the line. So I need someone to help me work it out. But because I'm involved, if I try to do it by myself, and I think it's really dangerous to social work by yourself, you've got to ask someone. It's not to say yes, but because you think that you obviously must know because your senior or manager has asked you, get clear instructions if you're unsure and not just run with it. Yeah. Someone else saying it's not a 9 to 5. Is social work a 9 to 5? What do you reckon?
I don't think it is. Now, not purely. That's not to say you shouldn't work 37 hours. But I think that's some of the difficulty when you try and put it in 9 to 5. You're working with families, they work during the day, or I think I struggle doing 9 to 5 when working with adolescents.
So you have children?
Yeah, but I mean working with adolescents.
Oh right. Oh no. There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah, because you have to sort of be quite flexible with them, especially if they're not finishing college till 4, half 4 by the time they get home. So I think it is difficult. And, at times I've had to go off and do, work some weekends if I've gone to observe family time contact. So
I've had a lot of people, I've had enough people saying to me, and I'm asking the audience what you think as well. Someone saying it's not a 9 to 5. I've had a number of people saying to me at 5 o'clock, I'm done. No way, I'm done. And I'm like, it depends what team you work in. Someone saying, actually, no, 8:45 to 5:15. If you are on duty, you can get home late. Absolutely.
yeah.
But I'm like, there are times when I've had to do assessments on the weekend because I know what's coming on Monday morning, or it's just the way it is. And you can make it a 9 to 5 if you want, but there's no right or wrong to that. But I don't think it's naturally a 9 to 5 job. But this goes on to that topic of burnout. And I'm asking you, like, why did you want to talk about burnout?
I think, I'm not ashamed to say I've experienced it. I've experienced it a couple of times. And I think a bit like yourself, Curtis, I sort of ignored the signs to begin with. And that's not helpful. That's not helpful to anyone. That's not helpful to yourself, the families you work with, the people you work with. And I think more and more I'm seeing that amongst workers. Yeah. So I think, it's really important because I think it's not just seeing them burn out, but it's them also not acknowledging it themselves.
Yeah. That's the creepy thing about burnout though, isn't it? It's not coming with cymbals clanging and it's not coming with a loud noise. It's like a fog.
Brick wall.
And then it hits you, right? You're driving in a fog. There you go. Thank you. You're driving in a fog. Bang, you hit a wall. That's what it's like. What was, do you mind me asking like about your experience of it? Yeah. What does burnout look like, or what did it look like for you? And what was like the lead up and so forth?
I think a catalyst for it was really, as I became more experienced, I was getting more complex families, which I loved. I loved getting in there and the nitty gritty, and then working with them. And I think then COVID hit, and I think that was a real struggle for me. So I couldn't tell you why. Well, I can tell you why. Because all of a sudden, my whole world was social work. That was the only area I could still function in.
Wow. So we are still living the effects of lockdown. Is still there, isn't it, for some of us?
Yeah. And I think from a child protection point of view, a lot of the families we work with are still impacted by that somehow, where we're seeing decline in school attendances for children, young people with neurodiverse needs. I think, but from my perspective, just, the only sort of life I had was my social work life, because I was still able to go out, see families, still work. And in fact, I found the whole working from home really difficult.
Yeah, that is so then the lead up to burnout.
Yeah. So
How
I
did it?
think
When did you recognize that it was happening?
it probably took me over a year to
1 year.
recognize it, because we wasn't working in the office, so it was easier for me. I say easier for me to hide. I mean, there was a lot of tears to my manager, but I think it was harder to recognize because as well we were in lockdown, so there was so much going on. You couldn't see it while you were in it. It's like that fog. And as things started to move forward, return back to the office, seeing people, I was still there. I was exhausted, and I got to the point where I struggled. Couldn't open up my email, couldn't open up my laptop. It was, I couldn't have anyone asking me questions, asking me anything, because I thought I have just got nothing more to give. I can't hear it.
Do you think you could have avoided it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the biggest mistakes I made during that lockdown, during that first year, was I took no annual leave. I had no need for it.
Why? Because you're working from home?
Yeah. I mean, work were good. I was able to work. We had one office open, and it was agreed that I'd go and work there once a week, just to sort of get me out of the house and just separate, because I live further away from where I worked, so it was just more sort of as a base. But yeah, I just found, I was working a lot because I had nothing else to do. I'd watched everything on Netflix.
Netflix made a killing that year, I tell you. I really appreciate your honesty on it, because like for me, burnout I can recognize it. And guys, this is so important, not to judge yourself against your colleague. And I said this in a previous podcast, that there are people that are performing in the office really nicely, but when they go home, they're really struggling. So you're looking at someone and thinking, why can't I be like them? Actually, Sarah took a year to recognize hers, as she said. As for me, it takes me about 3 months to recognize I'm going too far. But at that point, it's almost too late. And so it needs an emotional intelligence. Like, check in with yourself. Like, how are you feeling?
And I think we also, it's that sense of ego. No, I'm not burnt out. I'm fine. I can do this. What are you talking about? No, that reputation. I have a reputation of being a hard worker. I've always been a workaholic. So for me as well, that was part of my identity, who I was.
Wow. Natalie says, this is such an important topic. And I think that it's interesting. I've had a few conversations this week with social workers who are talking to me, but really they're burnt out. And sometimes it means, look, change teams, take annual leave, cry, say something, go to a spa for a weekend, take a long weekend, renegotiate your contract, maybe go 4 days a week. There's so many things on the table that we have to do.
Yeah.
Because you know what's coming, right? I mean, when it came to burnout, like, did you, what was was there like a wall that you hit, and what did that wall, how did you recover from that? Because I really want to deal with resilience in that as well. Go ahead.
Sure. I mean, I had contacted, I've got to remember, what do the initials mean? So the employment, is it EPA? So through local authorities, you get employment assistance program. Is that it?
Someone in the comments will let us know. But yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I did contact them, and you know, they gave me a few sessions just to really help me sort of.
Was that like therapy,
Yeah, well, counselling.
counselling? Yeah.
Yeah. You know, what they found was my anxiety, and that was very much around work, because what I was recognizing, you know, Sunday evening, Antiques Roadshow comes on, you start thinking about you've got work the next day, you know.
Yeah. The triggers,
And I
the little
was,
trigger points. Yeah.
yeah. And that did not go away until I was in the office on Monday. You know, once, and I think that's how I was sort of managing my burnout as well, because as long as I was working, I was feeling okay because I was doing something. But yeah, so, you know, I had those sessions and I was able to actually recognize that's what I was doing, and sort of learning to live with the fact that that to-do list is never ending. It is never going to end. And it's, how do you learn to close that laptop and go, okay, that's it for the day? And something I was taught was, well, are the people you work with, are they all safe? And are the children all safe? And if you can answer yes to both of them, then anything else can wait till the next day.
This is such an important thing that you just said, you know. Like, I am one of those people. I'm managing it, but I have to keep my eye on myself. That notification button, it's like you're on Facebook. I remember I watching a documentary on the person that created the notification button, that red circle with a number in it. They said that is one of the most addictive things in social media. That's one of the things that they have to manage very carefully. When Instagram was first released, for years they had to, people were getting depressed. And you have now an option. Do you want notifications? Because psychologically it impairs us.
Yeah.
It sends us down a spiral, like that number, 10 things to look at. And I'm one of those people that is like, I'm learning now to look at it and say, later, 10 minutes, let me finish what I'm doing. There are days when I don't look at my emails. It's important. I've got a set of tasks to do. And if I keep checking my notifications, they don't get done properly or effectively. I'm wasting time dealing with it. I can't. I've got to learn to just push that aside. And let me tell you, it's pain. It's pain.
Yeah.
Go on.
I'm exactly the same as said. You know, you're on protected time, but that little notification email, you know, I do have a certain amount of vetting. Who's it from? Who's it about? But yeah, sometimes I just need, you know, when you're doing court statement, which, you know, is a big piece of work and intense, sometimes you just want that little bit of distraction.
Yeah. I do get that. I've got Claire here saying social working in your home environment was not healthy. Phone call about really difficult cases in your home was difficult. Oh, mate. 2020.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that I found hardest. I was working from my bedroom because I've got, you know, I had my husband and children in the house. So in my bedroom, I had one of those little fold-up tables. And the virtual visits we were doing, I'm speaking to children in my bedroom, and that felt so invasive. That's my private space. Yeah. And I think that's where COVID really, you know, I struggled with that. I really did. So yeah, Claire, I hear you on that.
It's funny because I enjoyed lockdown. Yeah, personally, I enjoyed it. The only thing I didn't like doing was covering up my face like this with the mask. I enjoyed just the quiet and the chill. However, I could see the damage. It wasn't going to be good long term. You know, my kitchen table, which is where I'm at now, was becoming an eyesore. I've got a nice big kitchen table in a nice dining room. It became, I didn't want to sit in it. I was like, why? And I didn't realize, why am I not enjoying this seat anymore like I used to? Because I'm here all day. And when you work from home, you work more hours. So you really have to be very on yourself, you know. Let's read another comment. Something that worries a lot of social workers is colleagues judging you for being off sick because of a lack of workers. Yeah, whatever. Say, forget them. You got to look after yourself. Natalie saying, I'm in the process of developing a framework model for social work well-being. It needs to be the basis of our practice. We can't care for others if we aren't caring for ourselves. I mean, I think that social work needs to be taught very differently. And self-care needs to be a part of the syllabus. Emotional and nervous system regulation should have been taught, through social work training. Someone saying, Kieran saying, there was no downtime for me. My kids started to say, maybe one day we go to the park if you're not working. Oh man, I remember that. I was there. I got 3 kids. 2 of them we had to really support heavily through the pandemic. Homework at home. It was tough. But this is it. Burnout is for different reasons. For some of us, we were parents. Some of us, we were stuck by ourselves or stuck with a partner we didn't want to be with. Do you know what I mean? That can happen. Or just that type of society was just a killer for some people.
Yeah.
But I guess being a social worker, we are talking about it. And I really like what Claire said. You have to look after number one and recognize it. And for you, it was interesting. I'm really reflecting on the fact that it took you a year to recognize, actually 12 months burnout.
Yeah.
You know, which is interesting. But I guess you said you shed some tears. I'm guessing you had supervision, which is another topic we want to talk about. Yeah. So did the burnout topic come up in your supervision?
Yeah, it did, but I think it was very much taken in the context of COVID. So you're quite limited with what could do, because I'm not a work from home person. I was very confined. But I think when it was recognised, very much I need to take my annual leave. I need to take my toil. As I said, I was supported to take time out to speak with these counselling sessions. I mean, as sort of from a case management perspective, and really that's always the struggle with burnout is your caseload and going into crisis. I was lucky to be part of a very good team. We had support staff, so some of the load was sort of burdened. Some of the burden was offloaded.
Right, with shit. Yeah. I've got a good team as well, and we can do that. And it's good that you have that. And I guess my question to you then is, because in good supervision, your manager will say, right, how can we fix this problem? How can we help? What are you going through? What has supervision been for you? And have you had varying experiences of it or not?
I think, I have had varying experiences. I've had very good supervision, and I've also had supervision where it's not taken place for a couple of months. But also because before I was a social worker, I was a carer where you would have supervision. And in that sort of context, it was a tick box. How are you? Yeah, I'm fine. Any issues? No. Okay, thanks. Cheers. Bye. And I've heard other workers have sort of similar experiences as those in social work. But for me, I think having experienced really good social supervision, I love supervision. As a supervisor, I love supervision.
All right. So describe good supervision, and what is good supervision for you?
So I think it has to be tailored to that person. What's their learning style? What's their concentration like? What's their best way of learning? How can you draw out from them sort of? And when I say that, I think, people will often ask the question, how are you? Yeah, I'm fine. And then take that at face value. You know, it's about actually unpicking that, because I would think for anyone in our profession, you know, those 4 weeks since last supervision, you've not felt some high or some low, some frustration, something more than, yeah, I'm fine. Because that's just not that's just not the nature of our job.
How do you feel after good supervision?
I feel focused. Yeah, because sometimes I go into into supervision. Sometimes, especially as newly qualified, always quite apprehensive. Like, oh no, what have I done wrong? Have I, you know, what feedback am I going to get?
Yeah.
But actually, you know, as long as you've had good personal supervision and good case supervision, then yeah, focused. I can. So for me, so I have like a form of dyslexia. So
Right.
supervision is too long. I struggle. I sort of come out like sometimes with this massive to-do list, feel unmotivated, tired, thinking, oh, I could be doing this work if I wasn't sat here. And actually, what I've had managers do in the past is adapt the sort of the supervision sheets that we have to fill in to prevent me sort of getting brain tired, and then because as well I get the brain fog and everything, so it's more useful. I've had supervision. For me, doing this tapping on the laptop, not really very helpful. I like whiteboards, I like diagrams, I like visual things. And when I've had managers incorporate that, that's been helpful, just sort of unpicking whether that's, I don't know, something with the family or, you know, whatever the matter is.
It's interesting. I've got a couple of people here saying, when are you supervising me, Sarah? And I'd happily be supervised by Sarah. I don't know if you know these people. I mean, you know, maybe you should move to my team. You know what I mean? But yeah, if you want supervision with Sarah, I'm sure she's offering the service. If you contact her privately, she might just do that for you, which is interesting, I guess. Maybe external supervision might be a market.
It could be something there, but I think heads of service may have something to say about that.
Yeah, supervision. I mean, yeah, someone said here, supervision is a big word. Yeah, so I guess, what do you? I know some of these questions are similar, but I'm really just digging into how you, I want student social workers to know that good supervision is powerful.
Yeah.
I've had a manager with this was quite a few years ago now. Awful. And the stress of when it's supervision, even everyone in the team, this was when I worked in a youth offending service, everyone in the team was stressed because they knew supervision was coming up. Why? Because all they knew was that someone was going to pick them apart. And that's when people leave.
Yeah. And I think that's where, you know, as part of our supervision, you know, one of the things we look at as part of, you know, reflection on practice. Tell me something you're proud of. What did you do in that? What was that? And really draw apart that worker's experience, that skill, something they did well, you know, and often then you can bring that, you know, that then needs to be praised. You know, thinking about what impact that piece of work had, you know, had on the family or the child or whoever you're working with, you know. And I think it's important workers feel they're doing a good job, and you know, you bring that piece of work into team meetings or whatever to share that skill, that knowledge, whatever it may be.
To be fair, just to attach a side thing onto the supervision, I like group supervision. I like that. I think it's important. As much as I've got experience, I work with a ASYE social worker, and she gives me a lot of good advice, you know, and she's young, and guys, everybody's valuable here. Do you know what I mean? I'll just read some of these comments. You could tell me what you think at any point. Supervision should This is from Kieran. Supervision should not be just case discussion. If supervision is good, it shouldn't just be one question about your emotional well-being. The manager should ask, what are your circumstances outside work, to see if there is any way they can assist you. Donna's saying, getting the appropriate equipment for my dyslexia changed my life, not just work. Cannot recommend it enough. We need to have I've done a session on dyslexia before by someone who's very dyslexic, and someone I worked with, an excellent social worker. That, if you would call it a disability, I don't know. How are you social work? It is, yeah. How are you working as a social worker? Now, let's bear in mind, you've got a lot of time to manage, complex situations to process. You've got your family. You've got to do a lot of reading and writing. How do you do that as a dyslexic?
I think it depends when you find out, where you find out what age you are. I got my diagnosis, so actually I was referred to OT as an ASYE. Sort of bit different circumstances, but I was experienced like lots of brain fog, struggling with like my memory, not where it's impacting my practice, but you know, when you're being asked questions, like not being able to catch up, you know. So it's I know I have to read off paper. So, you know, I don't know who looks at the printing cost, but they must hate me. Yeah, I read off papers. I know that you can use coloured screens. I need extra time for things. And actually, I think something only came to me recently, because it is extra effort. It makes you more tired.
Okay. It's fascinating. Do you think that you're a good social worker?
Do I think I'm a good social worker? Oh, that's
Can you blow your own trumpet is the question.
Yeah, I do. I do think I'm a good social worker. I think with time and resources, I could be a better social worker.
Well said. Yeah, go on.
Would I say I'm perfect? No, I'm still learning, but I do my best.
I think perfect social workers probably have one person on their caseload. Yeah? Yeah. If you've got like a normal caseload, perfection is irrelevant.
But I think, you know, the families we work with, they actually want to know you care. They want to know that you're open with them, that they can, you know, we all know the boundaries with the families that we work with, how we're put across in the media. But if you can build trust, you know, and they might not like what you say, but actually they know you're being honest with them.
I'm learning a lot from you. And I say that because a lot of the things you echo, you echo my thoughts anyway. But I'm still learning.
We always are.
Yeah. I'm listening. Sorry, I am just listening to you. Yeah.
No, we are always learning of people. People will always surprise us, which comes back to our job being unpredictable.
All right, I've got a question for you. I've got 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
3 more questions for you. Let's see if we can squeeze it in. All right. What have you learned from working with families? Yeah. Well, let me ask it this way. What have you learned and how has it impacted you working with families in a positive way? So what have you gained from working with challenging situations and families?
You know, the families we work with, especially in that child protection context, you know, and of course the threshold for child protection is that.
Sorry. In your personal life, yeah.
In my personal life?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh God, I have to ask my husband that. I can't fix people. When my friends speak to me, I'm like, okay, do you want advice or do you just want to vent? You know, because sometimes I have before sort of tried to social work them, gone all motivational interviewing on them. And I've had to learn that sometimes people just want to vent. They need to get that emotion out. People cannot be reasonable. They cannot think constructively. When they are carrying all that emotion, people need to let that out. And I think that's probably what I've taken out from social work into my personal life, especially with, my family and my children, etc.
I think that's brilliant. I like that answer. I'll read some comments and I've got 2 questions for you.
Okay.
A trainee practice educator taking notes from what you're saying. Love it. Supervision over Teams, talking to a blank screen is deflating. So it doesn't work for some people. So you need supervision how you need supervision, I guess.
Yeah.
And
in that supervision, that time you and space you give to the supervisor, you give that, unless there's an essential phone call where, I don't know, but serious phone call, that time is to that supervisor. That's their space. That's their safe space. And I don't like team supervision, because exactly that, when that little notification pops up, that's their time, and for them to feel valued and to prevent burnout and all that stuff, you have to be there for them, like 100%.
Yep. Patricia Williams says Sarah is an excellent social worker.
Thanks, Pat.
Donna's saying we all have flaws. Aim to be good, but perfection will lead to burnout. I like that.
Yeah.
As long as we are continuing to learn, that is the aim. If we don't learn, then we should stop. Absolutely. All right. So much here. And, I'm the kind of person, I could do this all night. I've got one more question for you. I think I've asked that question already.
Okay.
2 top tips for student social workers and or newly qualified social workers. Your 2 top tips. By the way, this is Sarah. She doesn't know what the questions are, but she's doing really well. Go ahead.
It's going to be one of those things I'm going to think in the middle of the night, going, no, I should have said this. But something off the top of my head, 2 top tips. Okay. So something I've already said, which is the first thing I say to students on placement: get yourself involved in case discussions. Get involved in those conversations in the office. They are so much richness in learning, especially when you're worried about the lingo,
acronyms and stuff like that.
All of that stuff. And also don't think about words in that which cause separation. I'll give an example, like when people use placements instead of homes and contact instead of family time. Think about the language there.
Yes. Is that the second point? Is that the second tip or the first tip?
No. That was all the first point.
All right, let's reflect on that. Sorry, let me reflect on that. We have to look at our use of language, because it does tell people how we see people. So I really like what you just said there. I don't even like the term service user. I don't know what else to use.
No. That makes me cringe. Me cringe.
Right. Okay. It's not just me. All right.
No.
All right. What was your second tip?
So my second tip to prevent burnout: always have something planned, whether that's your annual leave, time with family, friends, whatever else. Always have something to look forward to.
So I'm going to ask the audience, look, if you have any tips or if you have any comments to share with Sarah, at least if it's just sharing love, Sarah, I just want to say, this has gone way beyond my expectations. You've been so rich for this this session.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's not just me saying it; everyone else is saying it, and I wouldn't say it if it, it has been. I think it's been nice to just be really, really down to earth. There is no suit and tie here, as you can see. These are my house clothes, kind of thing, and it's pouring down with rain. And this is my kitchen, and we are social workers, and we are helping everyone else do it. Whilst with, in reality, and in real life, we all have families that we've got to take care of, and we're sharing our social work experience. And you have done that. Yeah, and I really appreciate that you've been brave enough to come on. And so many people, even here, have got things to say, but it can be daunting to just come on. We'll call it TV. But yeah, thank you. And I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to say. I'll give you, the reign to say it. But I appreciate your time. I just want to read these comments, and then we'll see if you've anything else to say. If we don't, no, okay, no. Love it. The use of language can be so infuriating. I mean, and then we've got great tips, great conversation. Thank you both. Yeah, appreciate you, Natalie. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to say, Sarah.
No, I've got nothing else to say. I feel like I've kind of said enough. But I on my screen, I'm not able to see the comments or see who's listening. But thank you all. Thanks all for your sort of contribution, and we all learn from each other.
Absolutely, thank you, guys. Listen, connect with Sarah. You've heard it. She's got a lot to share. She's really good at communicating the journey and the reality, and helps us. And I think in some ways this has been a form of supervision, to be fair, because you've kind of helped me ground myself just by listening to you. Just connect with Sarah, and I say you will find this on all platforms. So I'll put it on YouTube. We'll try TikTok because it's over an hour. We've got Instagram. We've got, what else is there?
Instagram, LinkedIn. Didn't say Discord.
I'm too old for my son's using Discord. I don't get it, but we'll see. It might be there, and you'll get me
Patreon. That was it. Was it Patreon? You said
Patreon. We'll put it on Patreon, on my Patreon channel. And also, thank you, Donna. And this is the thing as well. You can get me on all podcasting platforms. So this will be up as an audio on, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, which are the biggest ones out there. It will be up there very soon. And I just want to say thank you, audience. And I just want to say thank you, LinkedIn, the LinkedIn crew. And thank you, Sarah, dearly. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
Thanks. Bye all.